What if I told you there's a test that proves you are lying to yourself? Say to yourself, I want to lose weight, out loud. Now, imagine your arm suddenly goes weak when you say it. That weakness means your subconscious is fighting you. This week, Dr. Olivia Grace demonstrates how muscle testing reveals what you're unconsciously sabotaging and why your body won't let you have what you actually want. She uses this technique to find trapped emotions causing chronic symptoms. The shoulder pain that may actually be grief, the autoimmune disease that could be childhood loneliness, the weight that won't budge because it's protecting you from something. Your body keeps a score of every emotion you could not process. Those emotions create real physical problems that no amount of medication or therapy can fix because they're stored in your tissue, not your thoughts. This episode will make you rethink every symptom, craving, and emotion you've ever had. Dr. Olivia, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. That was great.
This sounds so complex, and really it is, but it's something so simple for the patient sitting there. All they need to do is be present.
Exactly.
And you lead them, and the body tells us. And kind of like that book, The Body Keeps the Score. It knows. I remember when I first opened my clinic, my functional medicine clinic, I was so excited to travel the world and get to know different doctors and scientists. And I wanted to uncover what is the most powerful routine or system that's going to heal people. Because I was looking for answers for myself and my daughter who has alopecia. And there was so many modalities that had to do with the chemistry, our biochemistry, just looking at the body. Let's look at the pathology. Let's see what's happening in the blood. And it often felt like we were chasing our tail. You find this thing and then you go and take this herb, or you do this, whatever it is, this therapy, and it's forcing your biochemistry in one direction. And then you have these tertiary reactions. And it's just like, it was never really getting to the root to understand it. For myself personally, I was doing all the things that I thought or was told to do, right? I'm spending so much money with coaches on eating healthy and getting the best supplements and whatever it is we talk about in the biohacking space, and working so hard, but not feeling the results. And it wasn't until I started to look into my emotional state and the things that maybe I wasn't even aware of. And that was when things started to shift for me. So I know that you work with a technique called NET. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yes. Okay. So NET stands for Neuro-Emotional Technique. And what it does is it gets stored stress and trauma out of the physiology. And this is so important because so many people come to me, right, with so many different symptoms and chronic labels. And a lot of the times, most people kind of look at the chemistry, or they look at the physical stuff too. I'm also a chiropractor. But what I do and what NET does is it looks at the emotional component of what's going on. And using NET, you can actually use the body as a guide, as a tool to figure out, is there some deep emotional root cause to what is manifesting as a physical symptom? Mm-hmm. So with NET, you can actually touch any part of the body. Like, let's say someone has shoulder pain. You can have them touch the shoulder, and then you can check to see, is there an emotion stored in the shoulder that is actually manifesting as shoulder pain? And I swear every single chronic symptom I've ever come across, if it's chronic, it always has some emotional root cause.
Wow. That's powerful information to have. Okay, so let's just say someone has a chronic shoulder pain, and they don't know where it's coming from, and they're doing all of the physical modalities, trying to reduce inflammation, everything that they can, and it's stubborn. But they can't relate it to, well, when did this start, or what's the root cause? What do you do? Walk us through what you do to help them uncover
the emotion that's connected to it.
Yes. Okay. So perfect example. And I'm so glad we're talking about shoulder. So I had somebody who came in who had a shoulder issue and he was getting chronically dislocated. So they went to physical therapists. They, saw all these different specialists and the shoulder would keep getting dislocated. So with NET, I use something called muscle testing. And let me kind of back up and explain muscle testing because that's what we use with NET. And it comes from applied kinesiology. So muscle testing is using your body as a biofeedback tool to basically just get information. And actually it's widely used in Europe. Even like medical doctors will use muscle testing, but it's not as much used here. It's used by a lot of chiropractors. And so I'll just use a classic deltoid muscle and I'll put pressure on the muscle, and normally your muscle should hold and you'll feel this kind of like tension, your muscles responding to the pressure. With NET or with muscle testing, your body and the biofeedback tool, it's constantly sensing your environment. So it's noticing things that you hear, you see, you smell, you taste, you touch, and your muscle fibers are actually changing based on the information that it's getting. And so if you touch, let's say, an injured shoulder, the muscle will immediately go weak. And so you can see, okay, something's going on there. And so with NET, there's 2 emotional points on the forehead. It uses a lot of Chinese medicine. And so if you have someone touch the shoulder, okay, their arm goes weak because there's some kind of injury there. And then if you touch the forehead, that's activating those emotional points. And if the muscle changes and it goes strong, that tells me, okay, there's something emotional in the shoulder.
Wow.
And then you go through the process. And I actually had this person. So touched his shoulder, something was emotional, and I'm going through the process of figuring out what that is. And so in NET, they say there's 3 categories of life. There's money, okay, so money, job, finances, career, okay, there's love, everyone you've ever loved or everyone who's ever loved you, and then there's everything else relating to you, all of your identities, you as a mother, you as a business owner, okay, so you go through each categories and you actually ask the body through muscle testing what it is, and you'll get like a weakness. So the muscle will be strong, and then all of a sudden it'll go weak when you say something, because words carry frequency, they carry vibration, and your body's aware of that. And so it went to somebody that he loved, and he goes, oh, I think it's my dad. And so I test, and I'm like, it's not your dad, which is, I'm pausing for a second because this is so important, and this is why this technique is so powerful. Because if you're talking to a coach or you're talking to someone who does hypnosis or these other incredible techniques, it's your conscious brain. So you might think it's your dad. And then the coach goes, okay, well, like, tell me about your dad.
Yeah.
And then you go down that whole tunnel and you're talking about the dad. But I tested his body and the body doesn't lie. So it wasn't his dad. I go, no, it's your mom. And he goes silent. And I know nothing about this person, by the way. And he goes, well, my mom passed away when I was 13 years old. And your lung meridian, which is related to grief and sadness, runs right along the shoulder.
Oof.
Yes. And so he was like shocked because he had not really processed those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
He really was keeping them so deep, and they were still in the body, even though he was in his 20s. It's like mom passed away when he was 13, but at 13 years old, like, how you can't even process that, really.
Yeah.
And so it got stored in the body and it was affecting his shoulder. And so through NET, through the process, you touch the organ where the emotion lives. So the emotion is grief. So I had him touch the lung, you touch the forehead, and you breathe, and you take really slow, big, deep breaths. And as you breathe, and I have you in NET, you think about the circumstance. So you think about, the pain of your mom passing, which is sometimes really hard for people, but it's important because in that process, it rewires the way that your brain, your amygdala, is responding to that stress or trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually functional MRIs that they show with NET. It seems very woo-woo, but there's actually very well researched. And it shows that after you process it, they do the functional MRI, and the amygdala and the emotional centers of your brain are completely cold. So before, when you think about the stressful event, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And then after you process it and you rewire that and you allow your body to actually feel the emotion and get it out of the system, out of the physiology, then your brain does not light up in the same way. So I tell patients, it's like cutting the emotional cord.
Yeah.
So you can still think about the stress and trauma, it still happened,
Right.
but it's not going to shut down your physiology anymore.
It kind of neutralizes that polarization that's happening in your body where
Yes,
you're getting that emotional dysregulation from it. Okay.
exactly.
So you still remember it, but it feels different now.
Exactly. Yeah, it feels different. It removes that trigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where do the triggers come from? They're stored in our body, in our physiology.
Yeah.
And you can talk about something all day long, and talk therapy is incredible, but it's not getting it out of the body. And
Right.
once it's out of the body, you can start to think differently, see differently, respond differently.
Yeah.
Your perspective is different. It's like, it gives people their freedom, really.
We all know those thoughts that we have that it can just raise our blood pressure in an instant.
Totally.
You just bring up a thought and you're like,
Exactly.
it changes your whole physiology.
Yes.
So you're saying that this NET technique can help neutralize that. So you remember the thought, but it's not affecting your physical body in a negative way anymore.
Yes.
So the interesting thing that you brought up is how we have this unconscious mind where we may think like this individual thought it was the father, but the body said that it was the mother. So a lot of the time we don't know what was the trigger.
Exactly.
It's not something we're aware of. For example, you have a child in the grocery store who's like, can I have this candy bar? And mom's like getting angry. She's stressed out. No, you can't have that. You don't deserve it or whatever.
Yep.
And there could be some emotional response where you think you don't deserve good things or you don't deserve. You tell yourself a story, and in that moment, your physiology is connected to a story that I don't deserve this. So for the rest of your life, you may not be working hard. You keep sabotaging yourself.
Exactly.
Every time you want to make money or you want to get things that you like or desire. Yeah. This has happened to all of us on multiple levels. There's many, many layers. So that's why NET can help us uncover those layers.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up because there's it's called entries with NET. You can go through the body, like the shoulder, or you can go through the mind. And so what I tell people is typically what you want the most, you have the most resistance around.
Wow.
And so people will come in and they'll say, Dr. Olivia, I really want to lose weight. And I'm like, great. Let's see if that's true, right?
Yeah.
I will test them and I will have them say out loud, I'm okay losing weight. And if their arm goes weak, it means that they are not consciously or they're not subconsciously congruent with losing weight. And so we could do the perfect diet. We can do the perfect exercise routine, and they might lose a little bit of weight, but what happens?
They'll sabotage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They will immediately go back to their set point.
Wow.
And so I can check actually, are you congruent with the things that you want? And sometimes you actually feel the resistance in your body.
Yeah.
You feel like, I really want a relationship, but going on a date, you're like, oh my God, I want to do that.
Right.
You feel it. But
yeah.
It's like, okay, well, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like we just don't have access to those files.
And then you get frustrated because you have no idea why you keep sabotaging yourself.
Exactly.
I used to shadow Dr. Bob Marshall, who is the developer of Premier Research Labs. And I remember being in his office one day and there was a patient that had been coming to him for a long time, and he kept testing her body through applied kinesiology and seeing where her weak points were and balancing her with supplementation. And she was spending so much money with him wanting to lose weight. Her whole thing was that I want to lose weight. I want to have a svelte figure and be healthy. And so he's working with her. And finally one day he sits down and he goes, have a seat. It's like, there is not a pill I can give you that is going to help you.
Yeah.
I can't prescribe anything today. She's like, what is it that is keeping you from doing what you're coming in here? She's seeking the help. What is keeping you from doing it? And he was able to do a little talk therapy there, but she just broke down in his chair, and it was like she had been molested as a child. And that weight protected her from men
the attention
pursuing her. And once she had that awareness, she was able to work through it.
Yes.
But it wasn't even until that conversation that she had that awareness. It was like her unconscious mind was there, but her conscious mind wasn't aware of it. So sometimes curiosity with talk therapy can bring those things out.
Totally.
But with the NET, I found that it does it a lot faster. It almost speeds up the process.
It is, yes.
Because like you had mentioned, you brought up a great point that you can be talking to your therapist about, I've got this issue with my dad. And then you go down this whole rabbit trail and you could be talking about this for a year,
Yeah.
But really, it was the issue with the mom dying that was causing the
Yes.
shoulder issues. So I met you through the Hydrate Summit. You came to the Hydrate Summit. We had such a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And you so graciously invited me into your clinic to experience your work. And I have experienced quite a bit of NET and, these different modalities in the, I guess we would say, bioenergetic quantum world that are working with applied kinesiology to help us understand the story. And I've seen a lot of benefits, but there was an area that I was feeling really stuck. And we worked through that. And it was interesting because after I left, you said I was probably going to be tired, maybe exhausted from my body's shifting, right? There's a quantum shift. I actually left and I was really energized. I had felt like a huge weight had been lifted, just something I had been carrying energetically, and it was gone. But the next day I got really sick.
Yes.
You
never get sick.
I really don't. I can't remember the last time I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I got sick and I was sick for about 10 days. And usually I can use different modalities. I know all the things. You've seen my apothecary.
Mm-hmm.
I've got all the stuff. If I even start to feel like something's coming up, I know what to take and I can, cut it before it even takes over. I was doing all the things and my body was going through its process.
Yep.
And I really felt like it was my body letting go of those layers of whatever I had been holding on to. And it was a lot of lung stuff, respiratory things that connected to grief. And so that's something to mention too, because your body's going to go into a shift. And this quantum shift it's almost like it's outside of time, right? We think of time as linear, but we're learning that it's not. It's all kind of happening at the same time. So I just found that fascinating that I had to go through that process of the shedding. But I felt like the heavy weight that I had been carrying with those emotions was gone and it has not come back. It's just like, oh, wow. The way I felt about it was so heavy, so painful. No matter the talk therapy, the breath work, the modalities that I've done, it was like a heavy burden that wouldn't get relieved. And I actually even got to a point where I said, maybe this is a friend that I get to invite into my life. And instead of trying to get rid of it, I receive it and accept it and recognize that this very uncomfortable feeling that feels like I'm falling off of a cliff at all times, like I'm falling and feel unsupported, that I get to live with because I've done so much.
Wow.
And it's there. And it was something that was so intense. Like I've jumped out of an airplane before.
Yeah.
That didn't feel even as scary as what I was feeling in my body at all times.
Wow.
So after that one session with you, it was like the feeling about it was different.
Yes.
It just wasn't, it's neutralized. It's there. I have the memories.
Yeah.
I understand it the same way. I conceptualize it. But when I think about it, that burden that I was carrying just isn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I like you said neutralized, because that's what I talk about with people. Most of the NET statements are I'm okay statements.
Yeah.
And I'm okay just means I'm neutral. And you want to be neutral to something because if you have a charge around it, that which has a charge attracts. So whether it's a positive charge or it's a negative charge, you're going to be attracting that charge. But if you're neutral to something, then it's just like, it's kind of gone. And so we'll use I'm okay statements. Like, for example, in relationships, like I'm okay finding my person. I'm okay without finding my person. And people are like, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? And then but exactly, you're not okay with that. You're stuck in that fear, in that dread, in that unsafe, whatever the emotion is in your body, and you're attracting more of that.
Right.
So if you're neutral, if you're okay with it and you're okay without it, you're just neutral to it. So you can have preference. I prefer to find my person. I want that so badly. But I'm okay if it doesn't happen. And it
Yeah.
just frees you up and it gives that resistance is gone. And yours, when I worked with you, it was really unique because it's so fun, right? Everyone that comes in is in a different place in their journey. And so it's interesting to see how NET fits into different people's lives. And you've done so many different things. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll clean up a little stuff. We'll see what comes up. But there's different levels to NET. And I kind of, I look at it as like a tree. So sometimes you're just trimming the leaves, and that's still helpful. Sometimes you're pulling branches, but sometimes, most of the time, what I try to do with patients is I try to pull it out by the root.
Yeah.
And that's what we did with you, where it's like you were aware you had this thing, but I kept having to use your body and ask deeper and deeper and deeper questions, ones that you probably didn't even really ask yourself because it was so deep in your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got to that root, and you can ask the body, is there more? Is this deeper? And that's what I was doing. I kept going deeper. And then finally, when we hit that root, it was like, and you processed it, you could just feel the energy start to shift in your body because you had finally whittled it all the way down. And typically the root for people is identities and belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're younger, right, sometimes stuff happens to us and we either take it on as an identity or we take it on as a belief system. And when you can get to the root of what people's identities and belief systems are and you can shift that, that is when miracles happen. And the cool part about NET is that you can go back to the original event. So there's this concept of, right, things happen when we're younger in our life, and then it just gets re-triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered as adults.
Yeah.
And so with NET,
we often attract it.
Yes, of course.
Because we're trying to heal it.
Yes.
It just keeps coming up.
Keeps coming, and you're like still getting triggered and trying to heal it. And with NET and using the body specifically, you can ask, when was the original event? And you can figure out, was it, sometimes this is your podcast, so I'm just going to say it, but sometimes things will even go preconception.
Yeah.
So it will be mom or it will be dad, or sometimes it will even be a past life. And things can happen that will come and stay with you in this life, or it will be at moment of conception, or it will be in utero. I've had experiences with people where it goes back to in utero and something happened to mom.
Yep.
And it affected baby because, of course, you're feeling everything that mom is. And then, or even at birth, there's like a birth trauma where I had these two twins once. This was fascinating. Two twins, they were born, and one of them went right on mom's chest. And then mom started hemorrhaging, and the other one was born, and the other one had to go, and mom had to go to surgery. And the two twins, the one that was held immediately, no attachment issues. She's good. She's independent. She's like totally fine. The other one is like severely attached to the mother. Like cannot go, like severe anxiety. Twins, identical.
Wow.
One of them has the mom loves them the same. Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Except their birth experience. One of them was held immediately and the other one wasn't.
That's huge. And how are they going to remember that too, right?
You don't remember
Sometimes
that
even
stuff.
the mom doesn't remember.
No.
It's so traumatic.
Yeah, and so you can count and you can see 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and you go through and the body will tell you, boom, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Like this is the age. And then it will trigger memories in people. And a lot of the times it's for your conscious brain. Like your conscious brain really wants to remember. But at the end of the day, your body remembers. So it doesn't actually matter if you remember or not. You can still process it out of the body.
Right. Yeah, your body can take care of it. I mean, so many accolades to you because I have had amazing people do NET on me. And it felt like the work that we did together was so progressive. It was so profound. Just one session. And I could tell that not only do you know what you're doing and you know the questions to ask, but you also have a gift. You're very intuitive with that and you understand it at a certain level. And I think, I'm not sure, tell me, but the information that I gave you from the work that I had been doing, it seemed like it led us to be able to go quicker to where we needed to go. So that can help too. Like it could be a process for people. Like they might not have the same experience as I did the very first time.
Totally.
But it's something that over time they're going to get there.
Yeah. Like one of the women that I met at your Hydrate seminar, and she talks about it publicly, so I know I can share her story, but she was working with me and was having really good breakthroughs. Like we were working on a lot of relationship stuff and like she was feeling really good, but it wasn't until 3 months in that she had an experience that literally changed her life forever. And it was this concept of a vanishing twin, which happens in utero a lot of the times. I forget the percentage, but a certain percentage of births, actually there's like two.
Yeah.
And then one of them vanishes. And sometimes you know about it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But energetically, the baby will feel that. And they say the closest person that you'll ever have to you is a twin. So if you have a vanishing twin in birth, sometimes those people can feel that energy leave. And then they live their life with feeling like they're missing something.
Wow.
Or like they're not worthy of the good things that they have, because like, why am I here and that twin wasn't? And that was like a profound thing for her. And it was a pattern that had played out in her life. And it was from this vanishing twin. And when we processed that, like, her life changed forever.
Amazing. And that's something that she would never have consciously known.
Never have consciously known.
Yeah,
Totally.
I remember her telling me about that. I was like, wow. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because if you feel this attachment, twins are very attached, and you feel an attachment, then it just disappears. You could feel a sense of loneliness or like there's something missing from your life.
Totally.
And what a horrible feeling to have.
Totally.
Like it's missing. So you just got engaged.
Yes.
How exciting.
did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love this ring.
Thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell us about the emerald. What is
Yes.
the significance behind that?
Okay, so there is always symbolism. I'm a sucker for that. So before I had known that he was my friend at the time, but before I knew he was my person, I had picked out this ring randomly, and I found it on Pinterest, of course, where we find everything. And it was a 2-stone. It was like the Trois Moi ring, and it was an emerald, and it was like a pair, and it was called the Gemini ring. And I'm a Gemini, and I'm born in May, and so the emerald is May's birthstone. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is my ring. I put it in my Pinterest board. I'm like, this is it. And then literally a month later is when I not met my person again. He was my friend, but I realized it was him. I'm like, oh, it's you. Okay. And then, things moved really fast. And when we started to plan like getting engaged and stuff, I was like, this is the ring. And I sent it to him. I think I sent it to him like 10 days after, maybe even sooner than that. As soon as we got together, I was like, this is the ring. Like, this is what I want. And we designed it together. And so this is actually half of it. And so we did it too, because he's also a Gemini. That's the symbolism.
Okay.
So he's also a Gemini. He's born in June. And I do feel like he is my twin. Like, he is me in a boy version.
Yeah.
And here's my theory on that, because I've done so much emotional work on people, and I see a lot of relationship dynamics. And my theory is that actually the more healed that you become, the more you will actually be attracted to somebody who's a lot like you.
Okay.
Because they always say opposites attract. And I'm like, they don't.
Yeah.
They do, but they don't. Like, you want to have complementary stuff. But for the most part, a lot of the times it's like traumas attract. And you go through this thing where you guys are actually in a relationship that's really conflicting so that you can grow and do all these things. But a lot of the times when you're really both committed to the personal development journey and you've done a lot of healing work, you really love yourself.
Yeah.
You end up wanting and attracting someone who is like you and likes the same things as you do and thinks very similar and has the same morals. And it's just like the easiest relationship ever, because you're dating yourself.
So let's go back a little bit, because you attracted this man and he had been in your life already, right? But you had been doing the work with NET as well.
Yes.
And you mentioned to me that you uncovered something, you were able to clear, and then that's when he came into your life. So was he already in your life, but you just didn't recognize it until you had healed the root trauma around relationships?
Yes. So this is such a good NET story, my favorite NET story for myself, because I was working with one of my mentors, and I was in a relationship actually at the time when we were friends, and he was also in a relationship. So we were just in a friend group hanging out, like both in relationships. But I was doing a lot of personal work on myself. And the thing that I uncovered with NET for me was that I had this belief that if I had a man who was really devoted as a husband, really devoted as a father, that he would not be financially stable. Because that is the blueprint that I was given. Love my dad. He's a wonderful husband, loves my mother so much, like an incredible relationship, an incredible father, but didn't really have a lot of financial security.
Yeah.
And so I was, throughout my relationships, as a blueprint does, it was that exact pattern.
Wow.
I would date guys who were obsessed with me. They were so loving. They were wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing humans. broke.
Wow.
Absolutely broke.
So you were the one that always had to work hard to believe that you had to support yourself.
Yes. And then I was in my masculine. And then I dated one relationship where I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be with someone who has money. And so then I dated this doctor, and he was never around, just like committed to his work. Like wouldn't even sit down and eat dinner with me, just completely obsessed with his work. And so I was like, here I am. See, if I'm with somebody who's, and what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose money and stability and security?
You didn't think you could have both.
I didn't think I could have both. And that's the self-limiting belief. And that's the conundrum that we all get stuck on. Is we can't
were you aware of it?
Nope.
You weren't even aware of it. Okay. So this is the unconscious belief system that you were getting trapped in that loop.
I was completely unaware of it. And my mentor called me out on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is it. And, and then we processed it. And afterwards, I was congruent with I can be with a man who's a devoted father and a loving husband and also is rich and financially stable. Wow. And I can have both. That exists out there. I actually didn't believe it existed. And so, of course, I wasn't going to find that. And then
when it was already right there. But you couldn't see it.
Exactly. And so as soon as that happened.
Did you have attraction? What's your fiance's name?
TJ.
So
CJ, sorry.
CJ.
Yeah.
Did you have attraction to CJ prior to this realization?
You know what? I want to say yes and no, because the funny thing is, every time I'd hang out with this man, he was clean shaven and he had this ridiculous mustache. And I'm not a mustache girl.
You couldn't see past the mustache.
And he was in a relationship. So it was the mustache in the relationship, I was kind of just didn't see that. But, as things started to evolve with God, honestly, God was a huge player in this. God actually told me when I was in my relationship with the other person one night, clear as day, as if I spoke the words in my ear, he said, he is not the one.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, what do you mean he's not the one? Then who is the one? And it sent me into a panic.
And so how do you let go of that when you're in a relationship and you feel like it's the one, and then you also feel like you're hearing from God is not the one? How did you sever that?
Well, in that moment, it took a little bit of time. It took me maybe a month or two, because I was I heard God, and then I was like, okay, he's not the one. And I wrote in my notes, I'm like, my future husband he is doing the work on himself, because the person I was with wasn't currently. He is all these things. And I was kind of okay, well then I asked God to just handle it.
Wow.
Just handle it. Because sometimes that's a hard decision to make, to leave the person and whatever. And I honestly, God handled it for me. And he kind of just made it so clear that this person is not the one for you. Not that they're a bad person, they're just not the one for you.
Yeah.
And he made it so obvious that this person was. The story actually was that we were all together. Me and my boyfriend were supposed to go home, and we were on separate flights because he was flying with his friend. I had to get a different flight, and all of our friends were still hanging out, but we were going home, and my flight actually got delayed. So my boyfriend went home. My flight was delayed, and I had to go back to the friend group and hang out with CJ alone.
Okay.
And so that was the first time where we actually got time to actually
Did
have
he have
a
a girlfriend at the time?
He had a girlfriend too.
Okay.
But we just had a conversation about where we were at in life and in our relationships. And through that conversation, we were like, oh, wow, the clarity was there. But it was because of the delayed flight, which is such a God thing.
Wow. Yeah. And everything just started to fall into place.
Oh, it fell into place so fast. And people always say, when you know, you know. And I used to think, honestly, that was BS. I'm like, you'll never know.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. You fall in love with somebody and you hope for the best.
Right.
And it's a complete gamble. And you do the work and whatever. And I didn't actually believe when you know, you know. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe that. I was one of them. But I swear, Tracy, when I met this man and I really saw him, because I'd already known him, which helped, right? Because we were in a friendship. But when I really sat down and then looked in this man's soul, and we conversed and talked and really got deep, I knew, I saw.
Wow.
I actually saw him as an old man. I saw our lifetime together, and I had this feeling of
Did you tell him that in that moment?
Oh yeah, totally. He'll tell you the story, because I was looking at him like this. Crazy eyes, staring into his soul. And he was looking away, because I always knew, I'm when I know, it's going to be in their eyes. I'm going to recognize their eyes. And I was staring at him for an hour into his eyeballs.
Oh my.
And I knew in my soul that it was him. And
you hear that from people that are in happy, lasting relationships.
Yes.
They will say, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yes.
When I knew, I knew.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot of people get married really quickly too. I've heard people get married in 3 weeks, you know,
Totally.
a month.
Yeah,
Because
we were engaged 8 months later. We're like, yeah, when you know.
no doubt. Yeah. And then there's relationships that drag out without getting engaged for 5 years, 10 years.
Yep.
Because it's like maybe they're not 100% sure and they're kind of looking for another option. And then,
Totally.
yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So that's encouraging to know that. But it sounds to me, back to the NET,
Yep.
once the resistance in the field was removed,
Yeah.
it was like you were able to perceive something that you couldn't see before, that had always been,
Yes.
but you couldn't see it.
Exactly. And it's like I all of a sudden was an energetic match for that
Yes.
because I was vibrating at that belief system of like, I can have a man who has both.
Yeah.
And then this man drops in. And here's one of the things that he said to me that I was like, oh, I know this is my husband. Because when we were talking that night, he goes, yeah, I've strategically structured my life in a way. He's like, I knew from a very young age that I wanted my family and my wife to be my number one priority. He goes, so I intentionally structured my life so that I would have financial freedom and time freedom.
Wow.
And I was like,
you're like, yes, hello, that's
what?
the dream right there.
The dream.
Yeah.
And he has, he's in commercial real estate. He's a real estate investor and he's all the free time in the world and is like very financially stable and really was very intentional about and his family and his wife and his children, like he wants it to be his priority and also have a lot of money.
Yeah. And you can have it all.
You can have it all.
You can.
You can have it all.
So for everyone listening, you can have it all.
Absolutely.
But maybe there's something getting in the way. There's resistance getting in the way that's preventing that. And we may be unconscious of even what that resistance is.
Yes.
And not able to fully dream or see the potential because of the resistance in the field.
Or the blueprint, whatever blueprint you were given.
Yeah. That's very interesting because when you talk about the blueprint, we go back to, you talk about your mom and the relationship that she had with your dad. And then we could even look at your mom received her blueprint from her mother. And then it keeps going back. And so it's ancestral.
Yes.
And we know also that when you're in the womb, in utero, there's molecules of emotion. So any emotion that your mother is having is the first emotion that you ever had. When you're a fetus in the womb, you aren't able to perceive how things look or people's faces or, it's all your own little world inside there, your own protective world. But you're feeling your mother's emotions when she gets excited, when she's scared, or if she's feeling unsupported, or if she's feeling financially fear or whatever it is. Maybe she doesn't like her own self or her body. There's body images, whatever it is, that's going to be something that you're going to take on.
Yes.
And I think that's something to note because all of us have had that discomfort in our body, or it's like, oh, why all of a sudden do I just feel yucky? Or I look in the mirror and I'm like, I don't like myself today, but yesterday I did. What is that? Like, what is that shift that's happening inside of us that we can't put our finger on, but we know that it's there?
Yes. So that's a great question. There's a woman who talks about this, Emily McDonald, and she explains it really well, but she talks about how your brain actually is filtering your reality based on your belief system.
Okay.
And so a perfect example is body image. And that actually resonates with me because my mother had horrible body image issues when she was younger, and she's rail thin. Okay. So it was complete body dysmorphia, but she had horrible issues. She thought she healed it when she got pregnant. She was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then she, kind of cleaned, but maybe it was still subconscious. Maybe she was still looking at her body or speaking to herself in a certain way. But I developed severe body image issues as well. And like, look at me, like I'm small, but it is the way that your brain is perceiving yourself. And so there's some days when you're feeling really good and you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I look so great. Like, oh my God.
Even an hour later, you could walk by a mirror and you're like, is that me? I got a lot of work to do.
Exactly. And then the next day you might be feeling a little down or something. And then all of a sudden you're like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed about your body. It's the way that your brain is filtering your reality.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And so if you change the way that your brain is filtering reality, then your reality is going to change.
And it could be that way with anything, with your
Yes.
relationships, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it'll be like, this is the best day ever. I'm having the greatest relationship. And then it's not, or whatever is going on. Your home, I could be looking at my home. It's so beautiful. I love everything
Yes.
about it. And then the next day it's like, I need to fix that and this and
Yes.
this.
Here's something that's really interesting about, because it's talking about body image reminded me of this, and I see this pattern a lot, especially with people with health issues. So when I was younger, also part of the reason I had body image issues, and I discovered this actually through hypnosis. So I use NET, but I use a lot of other techniques as well. NET is my favorite, but I worked with a hypnotist, and this was something that I uncovered with that. But when I was younger, I went through a trauma around between 12 and 14 years old with my parents almost getting a divorce that was so severe. And I couldn't process it because I was young. Like, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know how to process it. But something was happening. It was so severe. I was so angry that that's when my body image issue started. And it's called transference. So I transferred my anger and hurt and disgust towards my parents, and I transferred it onto my body. And I carried that with me literally until I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Doing so much work, all of this stuff, couldn't figure it out. I was even doing NET and I was getting a little bit better, but it was until I discovered the transference that I realized my negative emotions towards my body are not actually towards my body. They were towards my parents. And then I processed it and I healed that. But a lot of the times people will come and they'll have a chronic issue. They'll have an autoimmune disease. They'll have cancer. They'll have these things. And I ask them, how does it make you feel? And they'll say, well, it makes me feel so alone. Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, well, I'll use NET, or I'll even ask them, like, what did you feel like when you were a child? Oh, I felt so alone. Mm-hmm. So it's like that child couldn't process that emotion. And so it downloaded that, it stored that, and then it transferred it to something that it could process. I can process having a health issue. I can process this autoimmunity. This makes sense. But it's the feeling that is anchoring it.
Yes. That's so potent what you just said. The feeling is anchoring whatever's going on in that physical manifestation.
Exactly.
And a lot of time we don't know, we can't even identify the feeling. Sometimes people don't even know. They just, their feelings range is very limited. Like you'll see people that are just happy and then angry. There isn't even like any range in there. It's just because they haven't learned that flexibility of being able to understand different, I don't know if it's understanding, but experiencing different things. So going back to diseases, you mentioned autoimmune disease. That's a perfect example because it's your body really turning on itself.
Totally.
And I can see that transference being a huge thing where there's something else in your life that happened, but you're turning it on yourself. Because as a child, that's the safest thing. That's what we do all the time.
That's how you process.
Yeah. Must have been me. Must have been. We're the whole world, right?
Yeah.
My parents are getting a divorce because of me.
Yes. That's what I tell people. Under 12 years old, you don't know that your parents are getting a divorce because of any other reason. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's because of me. Yeah. And people take that on and they live with it their whole lives.
Painful.
Until they, become aware of it and can heal it.
We think about things like cancer and other diseases where maybe, just maybe, there could be some trapped emotions there that
I will I will die on this hill, Tracy. I'm like every single time. If you have something chronic, it's not the only thing. There's always multifactorial, but there is always, unless it's an acute thing. If it's chronic, there's always some emotional root thing that is attached to that, especially cancer.
That's
always cancer.
Why do you think the world that we live in now, it's so hard for people to understand their emotions, to identify them, to connect with them, and to be able to identify the root? Why is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's because our society was kind of wired to think that being emotional is weak. And so we're in a society that wants to be strong, that wants to be powerful, wants to have a lot of money, a lot of status, a lot of things, and you want to position yourself in a certain way. And if you're emotional, then that makes you vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, oh, that's a strength. And that's something I had to work on as a female, right? And I know you feel this way too, as someone who's very successful as a female. It's like you have your masculine and your feminine energies and you dance between both. But sometimes the feminine doesn't feel very safe. The masculine feels very safe.
Yeah.
I'm a badass when I'm in my masculine, but the feminine, it didn't feel very safe for me.
Right.
And I had to go through that. And it's because of the feminine is more in touch with her emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually a superpower. And when you actually realize how powerful it is to be in touch with your emotions and to understand that and to process things and help other people process things and to be a safe space for people to come to you and be emotional, that is the number one hack for getting a man to fall in love with you. Is can you be a safe space for him to let down his guard enough to be emotional with you? That is how men fall in love. They fall in love through vulnerability. Women don't fall in love that way, but men do. And it's like, so emotions are actually this gift and this power that women have, and everyone has, but especially women, that we can really harness. But I don't think society is like really championing that, you know?
There's more of a understanding and a lenience towards it where there's an awakening.
Yes, there
We're
is.
starting to realize that.
Totally.
And men are realizing that it's okay to be connected. And we have a job as women, I believe, to help support that by attuning and listening and nurturing and nourishing that part of the masculine.
Totally.
And we haven't done a good job of that because we've been so much in our own masculine,
Yes, exactly.
supporting ourselves,
Yeah.
that we don't feel safe to go drop into our feminine and be able to be that support.
Yeah. And if you think about it, in my opinion, the most powerful person is the one who's willing to be the most vulnerable. Like if you're willing to just share your story, cry, be emotional, be real, like you have to be such a strong person to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of look at emotions. It's like you actually have to be really strong in order to be vulnerable.
That's a really good point. I like that. We covered a lot of things today.
Yes.
That was really fun. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
I would love to kind of talk about, because we talked about my engagement and my fiance, I would love to kind of talk about actually what I'm doing upcoming. This is brand new. It is actually rogue for me because most of what I do is, functional medicine, frequency medicine, helping people through their health issues. But I've been so inspired by this work, by the emotional work in my own journey, that I'm actually creating and launching like a program in January. I don't know what I'm calling it yet, but it is going to take women who are looking to manifest their man through this journey of identifying their blueprint, right? What they were given, creating a new blueprint, and then making sure that they are emotionally congruent with that blueprint. And that is the formula that I've seen with patients, like manifest their man, not only myself, but patients in lightning speed when you follow that structure. So it's still in the works, but I wanted to talk about that because I'm really excited. And I think it is such an incredible journey to take women through, of really going through all of their programming, all of their belief systems, and removing all the stuff that doesn't serve them so that they can get the one thing that they want the most in life, which is a really deep, loving, true, authentic relationship.
Yeah, that connection. I love that. I'm excited. Sign me up. So if you want to learn more about Dr. Olivia Grace, you can go to the show notes and you will find her social media, you'll find her website, and where you can actually work with her. You can work with her in person, and I know she does virtual consults as well. And then we'll pop in a link for her new course that she's going to be launching in January. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Olivia.
Thank you so much.
That was great.